72 days from now, Joe Biden will take the oath of office as the nation's 46th commander-in-chief, even as the 45th commander-in-chief shows no signs of conceding the election. Joining me now, Democratic strategist Kevin Walling, up late with me on the Final Five. Kevin, you were here with me a week ago with our friend Joe Pinion, talking about the race, talking about what could happen leading up. I don't think anybody predicted we would be waiting for 4 days, but 4 days later, 5 days later, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris giving those soaring speeches in Wilmington, Delaware. You were with the campaign, or at least you were following the campaign from the get-go. Give me your take.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible night. I was gathered with friends Saturday night to watch the vice president-elect and the president-elect accept their nomination, their accedance by the Electoral College on Saturday night. It was just a beautiful thing to watch. I think you saw both families gather on that stage. It had been a long time coming. Obviously, we know Vice President, now President-elect Joe Biden has been running for the presidency since 1988. So speaking about patience and the need to wait these 4 days in terms of getting these last states to certify their votes. But again, it was just, I think, a really strong night. Jim, you and I were talking about this before in terms of just the feeling in Washington, D.C., the jubilance. I was on 14th Street when the announcement came down. Everybody was honking their horns, just this outpouring of emotion that we saw across not just Washington, D.C., but a bunch of cities both in this country and around the world, and a big sigh of relief, I think, in terms of the results on Saturday.
Let's talk about, though, the idea of unity. We know that the president-elect has been calling for unity, reaching out to Trump supporters, Trump voters, and let's be honest, I mean, Joe Biden received more popular votes than any presidential candidate, but Donald Trump now receiving the second most. So you do have this divided country, and as this transition begins in earnest. We know that the COVID-19 task force was rolled out today. You do have a White House that does not want to concede. You have a legal team on the president's side that believes full-heartedly that there were irregularities when it comes to the vote. So how do you push through with the transition and start to unite the country when you have a lot of people who believe the president is right, that this was, to use his words, a rigged process?
Yeah, Jim, I think we need to hear more voices from the Republican side. I saw the statement released by former President George W. Bush after his conversation with the president-elect. Even Pat Toomey's statement on the networks, your home state, one of your home state senators of Pennsylvania, saying that there was no fraud, no reason to move forward with these lawsuits. You saw the Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia with a similar statement that there is no fraud on the local and state level in those states.
Yeah.
We need more Republican voices coming forward denouncing what this president is attempting to do because this country needs to move forward. As you said at the outset, we've got 72 days for this transition to take place. The president-elect released his name. He met with his COVID-19 board of advisors today. This process is moving forward whether the president agrees to it or not, because the real needs of the American people can't be put on the back burner, can't be pushed aside because this country needs to move forward.
So we know over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start hearing the names thrown around of people who may serve in the Biden-Harris administration. We won't play the speculation game on here. I know a lot of people have already started to do that, but there's still a lot of work to be done between now and then, not just on the hand of the president-elect, but also the fact that you still have things in the Senate are in flux. There may be the Republicans may very well hold majority. The Democrats may take it depending on how those two runoffs in Georgia go. But there is still a lot of work when it comes to coronavirus relief, a stimulus package. And if we don't see that between now and January 20th, what's going to change on day one of the Biden-Harris administration?
Yeah, Jim, I think you make a great point with those two Senate seats that are in contention in Georgia that will decide who runs the United States Senate when these confirmations move forward, when the president-elect and the vice president-elect take office. But again, as I've said throughout this process, I think Joe Biden is the perfect person for this moment in that, he spent 20 years in the United States Senate with Mitch McConnell, serving alongside him from Delaware when the Republican leader was serving from Kentucky. So he has relationships across the party lines. And again, I think he's the best person situated to meet the moment when it comes to COVID, when it comes to economic packages to support small businesses, when it comes to, the future of healthcare in this country, infrastructure, prescription drug spending, prison reform. And again, he has laid out this ambitious agenda throughout the course of this campaign. I think you saw his speech in Wilmington where he says we have a mandate for action on these issues. Because again, when all the votes are counted, he will be upwards of 5 million or so votes ahead of the current president in terms of the popular vote. That is a mandate to lead for both him and the vice president-elect Kamala Harris. And again, to deliver on these issues for the American people.
I think we know, though, and I would love to believe this idea that we can see some bipartisan interaction, some bipartisan cooperation. And I think you're very right in the fact that Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden do have a long-standing relationship. But the Republican Party that Mitch McConnell has led has changed exponentially from the time that Joe Biden left the Senate back in 2008.
Listen, I think it's a good point, Jim. But, again, I think the consistency of Joe Biden's message that he wanted to restore the soul of America rings true. I think, we forget that when Beau Biden died, the vice president's beloved son, Mitch McConnell was there at that funeral. And I think maybe once we get Donald Trump out of the equation, there can be some bridge building. There can be some relationship building. We can hearken back to a time when the Congress and the Senate and the presidency actually got things done.
I agree, but do you really think that wherever that Donald Trump, there's already word that he might run in 2024? Is he ever going to be out of this equation?
I don't think so. In that he needs to stay relevant in order to get himself out of the $400 million in debt that he owes. So he will
allegedly, according to the New York Times, right?
Allegedly. So he will always be in the spotlight. But again, Republicans understand power. Mitch McConnell understands power. When Donald Trump is out of power, let's see how much sway he has over his party.
Kevin Walling, good to see you again, my friend.
Thanks, Jim. Good to be with you.
Final five back after.